So, as you guys are aware, or maybe you're not aware, Dragon Age of Veilguard obviously is a massive failure. We know that, you know that, everybody knows that. The only people that don't seem to know that are the journalists who are still shilling for this game for some odd reason, and the people who made the game, obviously. And one of the people who made the game, as you guys are aware, is Corinne Bush, who is the director of Dragon Age of Veilguard. This particular creature has decided to make their ideology the forefront of the entire video game. Not very shocking considering what we know they did to The Sims. This is the reason why The Sims has trans surgery scars, right? So Corinne Bush apparently is the ruler of RPGs and the conqueror of haters. Bro, can anything be, you know what's wild? People like this Hayes Madison, whatever the fuck this guy's name is, people like this are the first ones to say people like me, Smash JT, 8-Bit Eric, Will the Fans, Atreus, everybody, Akeda, they're the first ones to call us rage baiters, right? They're the first ones to say that. But you motherfuckers are, that's literally what all you do. That's all you do. Like, are you mean to tell me this is not rage bait? Conqueror of haters? Are you kidding me right now? From a supposed professional establishment? Really? That's what we're doing? Okay, it sounds like cope. Listen, before we get into the article, do you guys feel conquered? Do you guys in the chat feel conquered? Do you feel like Corinne Bush has conquered you? Because last I checked, let me show you what being conquered actually looks like really quick. You want to see what being conquered looks like? This is what being conquered looks like. Hold on, let me go further back. Oof. And this is only about a month and a half or so. Oh, that looks pretty conquered to me. It looks pretty dead. Looks a little dead. Right? Just a little bit dead. So you got 7,000 players with a 24-hour peak of 9,000. Yeah, I'm gonna say this looks a little dead. So looks like you've been conquered, but that's besides the point. Corinne Bush apparently is the ruler of RPGs and the conqueror of haters. The director of Dragon Age brings his personal journey to life in his games with a rich, messy tapestry of love, life, and gay. Because that's really what they want to say, right? They don't want to say love, life, and romance. They want to say love, life, and gay. That's what it is. So let's see. I wanted to read this, right? Because I figure if I read it, that means thousands of you don't have to read it, right? Which is fantastic. And I want to see what is this coping and seething that's happening here right now? Because what we're looking at is genuine coping and seething, right? This is cope. This is a director who knows that their game has failed miserably, who is not getting any DLC for their game because the company doesn't see it as valuable because the game is not valuable. A game that thinks is going to get 3 million sales in its lifetime when its predecessor got 10 or 11, 12 million sales. And you're trying to claim that that's a success? You're trying to claim that's being a ruler of RPGs? Okay. Let's see what this obvious rage bait is. If there's a single Dragon Age character that ever made their way to Super Smash Bros., it should be the lovable dwarf Varric Tethris. At least that's what Dragon Age Veilguard director Corinne Bush thinks. Why would you start off this article like that? Where the fuck did Smash Brothers come into this? Can you imagine in a game like Smash Bros. Seeing him whip around the battlefield? Bush tells Inverse, you can smash someone back on the ledge by giving Bianca a good old toss. And don't worry, it'll ricochet. He'll catch it. It writes itself. Okay. Varric, always with his beloved crossbow Bianca, has been something of a poster dwarf for the franchise, a constant in a series that drastically changes between each entry. You know, every single article that we read, they always like to highlight this because they're trying to deflect as to why Veilguard is so drastically different from Inquisition. This is what they do. They try to say, oh, well, every other game drastically changed in between the two. Yeah, but at least they kept it dark and gritty and semi-realistic. It might have changed in overall gameplay and whatnot, but it still was dark and gritty. I don't know what the fuck you gave us with Veilguard, but it was anything but that. But Varric himself is also a perfect representation of Dragon Age at large. An emotionally complex character, Varric openly deals with deep trauma. Yeah, because he's dead. He's dead. He's been dead the whole time. The whole game, he's been dead. I don't care if I spoiled it for people. Fuck it. Dragon Age Veilguard sucks. He's dead the whole time. That's why he could self-reflect, because he's got all the time in the world. He's dead. That holistic sense of character is a big part of what made Dragon Age so successful. And last thing, so why'd you kill him? Why'd you kill him in the beginning of the game? And why did you put a Fight Club scenario at the end of the new game? Where it's like, oh, he was totally talking to a dead person this whole time. Like, why'd you do that then? If he was so important and you love him so much, why'd you kill him in the beginning? That holistic sense of character is a big part of what made Dragon Age so successful. And last thing, its influence is clear to see, especially in the 2023 Game of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3, which heavily borrows from the world and party member design of Dragon Age game. Bro. No, they did not. No, they did not cope and seethe this hard that they're trying to say that Baldur's Gate took... Oh my God. Bro, what? You guys are coping and seething because you didn't get to make Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate is its own thing. What are you talking about? Oh my God. Baldur's Gate's been around forever. What are you talking about? Anyway, it's a connection, heavily borrows from its world. I'm still stuck on this. My brain cannot comprehend the level of stupidity. Like, Dungeons and Dragons has been around forever, bro. What are we talking about? It's a connection that's been pointed out by countless fans and critics. But what's fascinating is how Baldur's Gate 3 and Veilguard feel like they're advancing different aspects of Dragon Age's identity. How are you trying to tie Baldur's Gate 3 to Veilguard right now? What the fuck does Baldur's Gate 3 have anything to do with Veilguard? Stop coping. Stop trying to tie yourself to the more success. You know what, bro? There is so much cope here. I got to play the song.
You are coping and seething. You just can't accept what you're seeing. Yes, you're coping and seething. The truth it is scalding, and now you are molding and coping so hard. Coping and seething.
Bro, this is maximum cope. I'm sorry, I had to play this song. This is maximum levels of cope. And trust me, I understand. BioWare made the first 2 Baldur's Gates. I get it. But there's a reason why BioWare did not make Baldur's Gate 3. There's a reason. There's a reason why Larian Studios made Baldur's Gate 3. And I am very happy that they didn't make Baldur's Gate 3. Can you imagine BioWare if they made Baldur's Gate 3? Wow, it would be a massive failure. It's not lost on me, and it's not lost on the team, how important these games are in people's lives. Bush says, coming into this game, that's a tremendous feeling of accountability and of needing to be true and authentic to what these games mean to people. So then why weren't you authentic? Why weren't you authentic to the actual game? I don't understand. Why weren't you authentic to Dragon Age? You were so authentic to Dragon Age that you basically ignored almost everything that came before Veilguard. That's how authentic you are. Imagine trying to claim that you're authentic to Dragon Age, the franchise, and you purposely ignored everything that came before it aside from the Inquisitor and like 2 decisions. How can you remotely say that? When it comes to authenticity in games, plenty of directors and developers talk the talk, but Bush is the rare game maker who delivers. From his time with The Sims to Dragon Age, Bush has always brought a deep sense of humanity to the game, putting characters first and never shying away from nuance or complexity in identity, relationships, and existential crisis. Are you serious right now? Okay. Nuance? Nuance. You want to talk about nuance and complexity, but in Dragon Age Veilguard, you can only be a good character. You can't be bad, and every single NPC basically talks the same. How exactly do you have any complexity? How exactly do you have any nuance? There is no nuance here. I mean, you definitely landed the existential crisis, though. I'll give you that. I'll give you that, Brusky. You definitely landed the existential crisis because we know you deal with that every single day. But aside from that, there's no nuance. There's no complexity. You're absolutely out of your mind. It's what makes Bush a leader in the industry and why BioWare tried so hard to carry on the Dragon Age series legacy with Veilguard. But Bush isn't finished yet. He's come a long way in the industry and has wisdom to impart and more projects to come. This is scary. This part is very scary. Corin Bush has more projects to come. I'm scared now. I don't even want to know what that is. Like many developers, Bush got his start from humble beginnings. Oh, yeah, so humble. So humble, I'm sure. Working on a series that a far cry from a fantasy epic. Tiger Woods PGA Tour. Of course you would. Of course you would. In fact, Bush hadn't planned on working video games at all. But using his digital animation degree, he landed work on Tiger Woods as an environmental artist, and the desire to keep making games stuck like glue. You should have just stayed with fucking Tiger Woods, bro. You should have stayed with the golf game. You're pretty good at handling a stick. I mean, you have one, right? But his love of RPG started long before that, with some deep cut classics like Heroes of Might and Magic 3 and Final Fantasy 12. Which he argues is the best one in the series. An even bigger influence on his personal philosophy as a developer, however, was the Square Enix cult classic Xenogears. Well, you made these games before you were mentally ill. That's the sad part, right? So you made these games, and I'm not surprised that you think Final Fantasy 12 was the best. Of course you do. It's always the one that gamers think is the worst that these fucking losers are going to call the best. They'll just take whatever gamers say and do the opposite. That's just what they do. So it's not shocking that he's saying that Final Fantasy 12 was the best. Not shocking at all. That was the first RPG that really touched my heart. That made me cry, where I fell in love with the... Is that a typo in this very professional article? These journalists who never make any mistakes? Where I feel in love. Oh, feel or fell? I guess you feel in love. Okay, I'll let you slide. I'll let you rock. My mistake. Where I feel in love with the characters and realize these games have something to say, says Bush. They touch on deep socially relevant narratives through these fantasy settings and complexity of characters. So then where did it go? Where did it go? Like, why are you incapable of doing that now? And by the way, for all the people in the chat who are like, well, I liked Final Fantasy 12, that's fine. You're perfectly allowed to like Final Fantasy 12. What I'm trying to tell you is that the majority of gamers view Final Fantasy 12 as one of the worst ones in the series. And I've explained why that is. I personally feel like Final Fantasy 12 was just way too ahead of its time in terms of the combat system. I think people weren't ready for it. Right? It was trying to basically come off of Final Fantasy XI's MMORPG style combat and bring it into the single player aspect. But the story was really good. But I just think people weren't ready for the game. If Final Fantasy 12 came out like a year or two after, I think that would be something different. But that's besides the point. Those specific RPGs have a lot to say about identity and personality. And that's a topic Bush has constantly wanted to explore in her work. How games can explore autonomy and choice. Bush has been open in the past about transitioning while at BioWare and how much the studio helped him feel seen and supported. But there's another vital piece of his career that directly played into Bush's expertise with Dragon Age, and it might not be what you think. You know what's odd to me? I mean, I thankfully have never experienced this. I'm sure maybe some of you guys have. But I can't imagine what it must be like to work with someone who you very clearly can see is mentally ill, right? Like back in the day, men dressing up as women, that only happened in their own bedroom. But now you got this shit everywhere in corporate space, and you're supposed to just be like, it's okay, it's normal, it's fine. I can't imagine what that must be like for people who know in their heart what they're looking at is fucking weird. And what they're looking at is obviously not normal, but they got to pretend like it is for the safety of their job. It just, man, that must suck. I thankfully have never had to experience that, thankfully, but I'm sure there's some people out there that have, and it fucking sucks. I got to imagine. We got before leading the charge on Veilguard, Bush honed his skills working on an even bigger mega hit franchise, The Sims, and this is where it began. So, okay, let me ask you guys something. Do you not find it ironic? What's up, Teddy? That this person, before transitioning, worked on a whole bunch of normal ass games for the most part. And then after their transition, suddenly was working on The Sims, which is one of the first games to introduce trans surgery scars. At the same time, after this person transitioned, all of a sudden The Sims gets trans surgery scars. Dragon Age: The Veilguard gets trans surgery scars. Or are we just supposed to ignore the commonalities between the two? I guess. Working at Maxis and on a game like The Sims is an incredibly fortunate environment for a designer to really hone their craft. And the reason I say that is they're deeply complex games. I like how this dude keeps saying complex. He keeps saying nuance. He keeps saying all these buzzwords. But then when you play the game, there is nothing complex and there is nothing nuanced about any of the characters that are in this game. There is nothing complex or nuanced about any of the characters in Veilguard. Zero. There's no complexity whatsoever. So why are we... And since when did The Sims become complex? When did this game become a deep fucking complex story? Are you kidding me right now? Anyway, you're really exploring underlying systems that drive characters' behavior, skills, progression, game economies, all allowing for emergent gameplay. Okay. To Bush, games like The Sims or even Animal Crossing continue to flourish because of human nature. Their inherent need we have to be social creatures and form connections. No, The Sims and Animal Crossing flourish because it is a predominantly female-oriented driven player base. And all the women basically play these two games. You know what I mean? It's not like girls are out here playing fucking Doom, although I'm sure there are some women that do. But the majority of female gamers are playing this shit. And they're the ones that are continuing this. They're deeply relatable games that reflect our real lives. But in a way, the same idea can apply to a complex RPG like Dragon Age. And Bush's time with The Sims gave him a unique advantage going into Veilguard. Oh, I can't wait to read this. I love that marriage of simulation and these fantasy worlds of rich, deep... Ralph says, bro, I play Animal Crossing. What's wrong with that? Nothing is literally wrong with that. But what I'm telling you is that you would be crazy if you don't think that the majority of players for those games are women. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you can't enjoy it. I'm just saying it's driven and it continues to be successful because it's one of those cozy games that are dominated by female players. I love that marriage of simulation and these fantasy worlds of rich, deep characters that feel lived in. I believe that as RPGs continue to evolve, what you'll see is an increasing focus on that marriage between simulation and a fantasy storytelling layer, says Bush. After all, it's about immersion, it's about autonomy and relatedness. These are deep common aspects between the two seemingly different styles of games. I really like how Corin Bush is trying to seem to be a lot smarter than they actually are. Because, again, you could say all these buzzwords, but none of this comes off in your games. None of it. None of it comes off in your games whatsoever. We've seen the capability that you have, and it's not impressive. On top of that, you were responsible for this game being in development hell for 10 years. I don't even know if you were there for the whole 10 years, but I got to imagine you probably were. But we have seen the capabilities of your leadership, and we've seen the capabilities of your creativity, and you are lacking in both. Let's just be honest. Dragon Age has been a lot of things over the years, an open world game, a mobile hero collecting title, dozens of comic books, and even a Netflix series. Fans' created works have flourished for nearly 2 decades. The fan fiction archive website, Archive of Our Own, even has over 13,000 entries for Dragon Age Origins alone. That idea of player agency and identity is the very bedrock of what Dragon Age is built on. As such, Dragon Age has always been... Oh, here we go. This is when it gets good. You ready for this? Here we go. As such, Dragon Age has always been incredibly progressive. Origins liberally featured queer romances, and Inquisitions, the third game in the series, has a whole plotline about a major side character being transgender. This allows the series to explore themes of identity and belonging in ways other RPGs can't. And Veilguard certainly sticks to that idea. Wow. Let's give a round of applause. Hold on, because this is what they want. They want the cheer. They want the... Here's what people don't tell. You know what? Let me finish reading this. Hold on. Let me finish reading. I'm an openly queer trans woman. You don't say. You don't say. I couldn't tell by looking at you. I could not tell by looking at you. That's shocking, right? You are basically a gay male with a plot twist, right? Like you're a gay male that took extra steps to not be portrayed as a gay male. So stunning, so brave. It shaped everything about who I am, and it's been the source of a lot of joy, a lot of difficulty, and perspective. For me personally, one of the greatest gifts about being trans is the amount of introspection it forces upon you. You spend a lot of time deeply examining who you are and why that matters. All right. So let's explain this a little bit that these people never want to tell you, right? There will always be people out there that'll be like, well, these games were always woke. They were always woke. And so it's like, all right, so let's start asking some questions if you genuinely believe these games were always woke, right? So then the first question has got to be, well, what do you think woke is? Because by definition of the word, woke is essentially being aware of social injustice in America, right? Whether or not past, present, or future. That's what it means. So again, racial injustice, whatever the case may be, how exactly does that play out here? I'm not really sure. So then if that's not the definition that you're using, so what is the definition that you're using of the word woke or, progressive, incredibly progressive, right? What exactly are you referencing? Gay relationships? So now all of a sudden, does being gay mean woke? Because people have been arguing that forever and you've been telling them they're wrong. So now does that all of a sudden make it woke? Like, what are we doing here? Here's the truth of it, right? Gay relationships have existed for the longest time in video games. You've been able to experience it, especially in RPGs, for the longest time. The difference is that the characters didn't make their entire fucking identity being woke, right? The characters didn't make their entire identity being gay. That's the difference. We now have writers that are incapable of writing actual complex and interesting characters that just so happen to be gay. You know where there's writers at? Where those writers exist right now? Those writers exist all the way in Japan. They exist all the way in the East. They're capable of making gay characters that look fucking normal. They just happen to be gay, but they have interesting plot lines to them. They're capable of doing that. But our writers are not capable of being able to look 2 seconds past the mirror because they're too busy trying to self-insert themselves that they don't have the ability to do anything except make a fucking rainbow warrior in the game. The characters that are in Dragon Age and Veilguard are nowhere close to the characters that were in previous Dragon Age games or Mass Effect games. All of the gay characters that were in both of those franchises prior were characters that otherwise you really didn't give a fuck if they were gay because they didn't make it their identity. They didn't go around talking about their gender identity. They didn't go around talking about whether or not they were transitioning or not. They were just gay fucking characters who had interesting storylines and plot details that during a sex scene happened to fuck the same sex. But aside from that, that was literally it. So you guys have lost the ability to be, like you said, nuanced, complex, or just flat out fucking normal people. You've lost the ability to be normal people because you're not normal people. It's very difficult for someone who's not normal and who's mentally ill to write a character who is normal and not mentally ill. It doesn't mean it can't be gay, but it's like you've lost that ability. You don't have the ways to do so. So why would I expect that from you? Why would I expect characters that are good, interesting characters that happen to be gay? Why would I expect that from you? You are incapable of doing it. You've proven that. Even if you try to say, well, I'm talking all this shit that, what I'm saying is not true. Okay, let's look at your game. Let your game speak for itself. Oh, wow. The first Dragon Age that you're in charge of, not only does it bomb, but everybody's making fun of the fact that it is so ham-fisted. It is so incredibly, heavy-handed with the identity politics. It's insane, bro. Anyway, and again, this whole title right here, the fact that you keep doing this, I'm an openly queer trans woman. Nobody cares. But I'm an openly queer. Nobody cares. But I'm Trent. Nobody fucking cares, bro. Nobody cares. Can you make an interesting character? No? Okay. That's what I thought. For Bush, great games offer a mirror that allows you to reflect in your own identity. Here we go. Here comes the self-inserts. Preferences and choices. When developing a game, Bush says he is thinking about the role introspection plays on people in general, and how each of us go through our lives having these moments of crisis, epiphanies, and those quiet moments when you're alone. These are questions that are right for personalized experiences like RPGs, especially when you consider our biggest creative pillar, be who you want to be. To Bush and the team, it felt like the right time to really take Dragon Age's exploration of identity further, especially with a character like Rook that's so molded by the player's personal feelings and thoughts. But one of the more interesting strides Veilguard makes is allowing you to share experiences, including romances, with a compelling cast of party members, easily some of the most memorable characters BioWare has ever created. Bro, now we're just lying. Now we're literally just lying. Are you fucking kidding me? Some of the most are you kidding me? Some of the most memorable characters BioWare has ever created. I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm not even going to bother with that. I don't even care. I really don't. Here's the part that I care about. Here's the part that you care about. Questions about BioWare's future abound, especially with the team now pivoting to focus work on Mass Effect 5, a similarly long-awaited comeback for a beloved franchise. But in the immediate future, the studio has faced a different problem. A hate campaign that puts Veilguard at the center of a kind of culture war on social media, along with plenty of hateful comments towards developers and review bombing on sites like Metacritic. I think we should talk about it, Bush says. It's hard. I grew up in a time when it really felt like we're there to celebrate the games and have these shared experiences. And that drive is still there. I think the discourse we see is a result of highly polarized times, and perhaps is a little naive. I know it's hard when you have to ask the question, is this game for me? Do I belong here? And games are better for it when we can say, yes, you do belong here. Then why did you tell everybody if they don't like it, don't buy it? Like, why do you developers continue to tell people if they don't like it, don't buy it? And then now you're saying, oh, well, you should belong here. You should be able to say, yes, you belong here. Why? That's completely opposite. Dragon Age is far from the only game that come under fire recently, particularly for inclusions of diversity or diverse storytelling. I love how they try to misrepresent the conversation. They know that this is not what it's about only, and they try to make it only about this because it fits their narrative. For most of this year, Assassin's Creed Shadows has been a constant target of a hate campaign, with Ubisoft's art director recently condemning the backlash and harassment the studio and the team has faced. The creator of the indie game Tales of Kazera Zao, Abubakar Salim, has also been vocal about the fever pitch of racism. Did this guy write an article about me? I'm looking. Let me see. Hold on. What's this? Oh, no. Okay, this is old. June 3rd. Okay, never mind. I thought it was about, Speargate. These kind of events seem to have been happening more and more. But for BioWare and Bush, the focus is on celebrating what the team has created. Yeah, how's those sales holding up? You can celebrate what you created all you want, but at the end of the day, you got to walk it to work. You got to realize you're a failure. So how exactly does that help anybody? He says, I know, and something that's very important to me is that games are inherently diverse when you think about the size of these teams and the specializations you have within them. When you have diverse, complex, large groups of people coming together to make something, of course, the game is going to be a reflection of those teams, says Bush. I think we need to consider that we can make the most authentic, best experiences when we're tying into what makes us the developers and you as the fans. When we can tie in those elements that make us distinctly human, and that makes the difference. Bro, I like how he just destroyed his own argument in one shot. So these developers have been constantly telling people that we need more diversity in gaming because studios are just not diverse enough. Teams are not diverse enough. But apparently now it's a thing where you could make a game. In order to make a game, you got to bring a whole multitude of diverse people together in order to do that. So has that been happening since the beginning? Yes. So all this DEI hiring and all this nonsense has been completely unnecessary because what you just explained has been happening since the start. In Bush's mind, not embracing the lived experiences of the development team would result in stories and worlds that feel less relatable. How is that possible? That is not true in the slightest. How do you think games were able to be made before? You think everybody just fucking trauma dumped in the game? You think every game that came before you was a trauma dump of the developers? Of course not. So this is just a fucking excuse for you to try to explain why you trauma dumped on the video game. Nobody asked you to do that. You did that. You trauma dumped on this game. You decided that's what you wanted to do. Game developers also need to feel safe in what they do. Oh, shut the fuck up, bro. You guys sit in an office at a computer and you make video games, bro. How dangerous do you like? How in danger do you feel? You have one of the safest jobs in the world. Shut the fuck up, bro. Stop this whole like we need to feel safe in what we do, which ultimately means being able to see themselves reflected in their work. How? Are you fucking kidding me? How do the developers feel safer by self-inserting themselves into the game? How? That doesn't even make any sense. How does that make you feel safe? So you mean to tell me that when you're making a video game, if you don't self-insert, you suddenly are in danger? What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. We have an incredibly diverse player base, and what I mean by that is their motivations and expectations. Bush says, this becomes the biggest opportunity to continue the tradition of reinvention. At the end of the day, Bush believes gamers have so much in common, starting with a love for the game. What I long for is just that opportunity for us as gamers to step back and get in touch with why we fell in love with games in the first place and recognize how difficult and complicated and messy it is to make games, says Bush. To share these vulnerable experiences and just approach it with a little bit of greater sense of kindness and curiosity. Shut the fuck up, bro. Do you care how your sneakers are made? Corin Bush, because I know you wear a size 12 at least with your big ass man foot. Do you care how your sneakers are made? Do you care how your t-shirt is made? Do you care how your jewelry is made? Because all of it was probably made by slave labor to some extent. So do you care about any of that? No. You only care about how it works. You only care about what it does for you. So let's not sit here and pretend like all of a sudden people have to fucking care about how a video game is made when you don't give a fuck how anything you use is made. You don't care how your phone is made. You don't care how your computer is made. All you care about is it works. So stop trying to go after people's empathy and make them feel sorry for you because you fucked up. Just admit that you fucked up. That's your fault. Take some accountability. This fucking guy can't take accountability for shit. It's your fault at the end of the day. Seriously. I don't mean that in any sort of way, but the truth of the matter is people just don't care. The only thing people care about in terms of how it's made is their food. And that's like at the bare minimum, right? Even then, people for the most part don't really care too much, but they care to an extent where there's different options where you could buy like organic, non-organic, processed, you know what I mean? Like you have the option, you have the knowledge to do it. But that's the only thing that people care about, how it's made, sort of. But aside from that, nobody gives a fuck how anything else is made. They only care that it works. Do you care how your car is made? No, you only care that it's safe or that it's fun or that it's fast or that it serves your purpose. That's it. That's all. In the warranty. That's all you care. I hate this shit, bro. I hate this fake ass empathy where the person's like, feel sorry for us. It's very hard to make games. It's very hard to make games. You don't understand. No, we do understand. You're being a bitch. You're being a bitch. So at least you got that part down right when you're acting and cosplaying as a woman. But stop being a bitch. There's no crying in baseball. And there's no crying in fucking gaming either. So just get over it at this point. Go make your next game and fuck that one up too. And then tell everybody, oh, it's so hard to make video games. It's so hard. You understand? It's so hard. It's like, shut the fuck up, bro. You're a loser. You're an absolute loser. You go home at night, you take off your makeup, and you look at the mirror, and you have to see that 5 o'clock shadow and admit to yourself that you are nothing what you tell people you are.